Okay, so the hands into prayer. So just feel that point on the spine. Let's have the arms behind. Remember how we used to have the arms behind, holding the elbows. To feel the point on the spine that tends to get a little bit compressed and causes the head to fall forwards a little bit. So we know that thinking or worrying, thinking with language is bad for us. But there's another aspect of mind which Gilles Deleuze called it an image of thought. We have an image of what we think something is. So for him, it was the image of thinking itself. So we think of thinking as being sort of logical and proceeding rationally. And he said that image actually holds back the possibility of it being something else. And this point on the spine here, that's the point that really needs to release so that something can lift here. And then suddenly you see the world afresh. It's not the same old world. When this vertebra here collapses in, it's as though we have a shell, like the tortoise, and we sort of plod because everything is known in a way. So this is the point here that we just need to just let it lift. And it's the thymus. The thymus will lift upwards. And there'll be a real lightness. It's very childlike. Okay, so now let's just bring the hands up and out. And turn one hand over. And then just turning the head. Again, with part of your mind on that point on the spine to really free up. It's almost a sense that the spine above that point is quite different than the spine beneath that point. It's not, it's just that it tends to normally be. When I massage people's back, their upper back is often very different than their mid and lower back. So there's a real break in their mind. So often their upper back, the skin is, often not very good, dry or spotty or whatever. Whereas beneath it, they're really young. So we'd like that youth to creep up into the upper part. For that point in the spine has to be free. So we must try our best not to hold an image in the mind of what we think something is. It's especially true of meditation. We have an image of what we think meditation is. We have an image of what we think we should look like when we're meditating, very still and solemn. Whereas when you see great meditators meditating, it's quite different. When you see a great meditator meditating, they just look like a channel. There's a channel between them and the ground and the heavens. And so it's movement, it's flow of energy. And an image will tend to staunch that flow. Even an image of flow will actually inhibit flow, because we want everything to be sort of spontaneous and fresh. Try and get it a bit more. Let the shoulders really turn, like you're trying to turn the body towards the hand that's looking up. So it's more like the figure of eight exercise, extended out to the sides, than just a simple head and neck exercise. And then bringing the hands in, and just let it be the figure of eight exercise. Remember, all of these exercises, they're meant to be done for quite a long time, 5-10 minutes per exercise, with a mind that is on the job. Then gradually the exercise, it sort of builds up in intensity until there comes a point where it's like something breaks, and then it's no longer you doing the exercise. It's more like the exercise is doing you, and you're just getting a bit crazy. And then it gets really interesting because it takes you places. It's what we're looking for. We're looking for teachers all the time. Everything can be a teacher if you let it, especially these exercises. It will take you somewhere you probably don't want to go, but will be good for you in the long run. Feel it really working the belt of the dantian, not just the muscles around like this, but the muscles up and down. And then this area sort of squeezes up into the spine like this, like a fountain. And then that point on the back just gets ironed out by the upward thrust from your root. And now let's calm down, just come into the pulling, extending. So feeling the shoulder blade reaching down the arm, and then feeling the elbow pulling back. So the hand isn't really important. Certainly not where the mind is. The mind is in the shoulder blade and then in the elbow. and up and down. And again, we're trying to cast off the image all the time. As soon as something becomes a habit, there's an image set up that you exercise in order to conform to, as much as exercise to go somewhere different. We'd like our exercise to be breaking out of our images all the time. Break out of the boxes that we've made for ourselves with habit. You're not trying to just do it different. You're just keeping your mind on it, and then you notice something. You notice something that you'd never noticed before, and then you can just go with that. And then it becomes different. That was the thing that John was so good at. That was the most valuable thing he had to teach, really. It's just spirit. The spirit will always try and break out of cages, prisons, boxes. It's all to do with freedom, spirit. And now let's just bring the hands up and out. And now pulling the shoulder blades together at the back and then pushing them apart. It's basically rowing, but with the hands out to the side. So pulling and pushing. And then the hands round to the front, fold the hands in into prayer, and rowing proper now. So really reaching forward, shoulder blades really stretching away from the spine. And then my elbows pull back and my shoulder blades try and pinch together at the back. Okay, now let's try, just come back to prayer and we'll try it again. There's a technique that they use in the martial arts. They say, when you do something, always do it twice, or at least twice. You do something and then you do it again almost immediately. And then the second time that you do it just requires spirit. So I reach forwards and then, I really reach forwards a second time. And then I pull my elbows back and then I really pull them back. And you can see that it just requires, the second one requires more intensity. So the first one is your body. And then the second one is your spirit. The first one is your body, and then you really mean it. And this is true for everything that we do. Every exercise can be done like this, where it's 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And then let's try just a few for the sphincters. So pulling in the Dan Chen and the sphincters, and then just releasing. And again, you can do it twice. So clench, clench, push, push, clench, clench, push, push. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So this thing of breaking our images, iconoclasts, is really as soon as something becomes set in stone, as soon as it becomes an image, it's died in a way. The spirit of it is dead. So that's all we're trying to do really, is just break that solidity so that the spirit can be released in anything, whatever it is. There's that lovely quote of Ellen Langer. She's called the mother of mindfulness. She's a psychologist. So she approached mindfulness from a non-Buddhist perspective. So in a sense, she's more interesting than John Kabat-Zinn, who's the father of mindfulness, or Western Buddhist mindfulness. And she said, certainty is a cruel mindset. So this thing of wanting to create a clear image that we can grasp in our mind actually hurts the world. It doesn't just hurt the world, it hurts us. That's what we're trying to get away from. So everything melts and becomes fluid. And you can't say anything about it. All you can do is just be a part of it, really active. And if you work in that way, then it's just very sort of juicy. That's the word that John used to use. He was always talking about like a sort of a damp, juicy work or energy rather than a dry, brittle one. So when something becomes set and clear, it dries up. It dies, basically. Moving side to side, listening, on the prowl. Feel the two actions in the emptying leg. So it straightens to completely empty, and then it starts to bend to start filling. Then this one. We're feeling the activity in the leg that has least weight in it. Straight, bend, straight, bend. Feel the relaxation across the sacrum that enables everything to sink in here. Right. And Straighten this leg and everything settles here, because what I want to be able to do is pick this foot off the ground. And remember, I don't want, so I push my weight into this foot. So normally what we do, if you then had to pick this foot up, you'd have to do something else. I'd have to lean a bit or whatever. I want to feel the complete full and empty, so I push into this leg. Everything has settled into this leg, and then this leg can just pick up without me having to haul or make a movement of my body. So we've got the complete full and empty here and then here. I pull. This now has to really push. Yeah, so we're looking at the necessity of this leg pushing myself into here so that it can come up. Pulling with the empty leg, pushing with the empty leg, and then this foot can come up. Pulling with this leg, pushing with this leg. I want the push of the leg. This is why the pushing of the leg is so important. This leg pushes. It doesn't just push me over this leg, in which case I'll be settling here. It's always considering the arch. So it straightens and it really pushes me down into the ground, and then this foot can come up. So this is the feeling that we want. I pull with one leg, the other leg straightens, and it just injects me into the ground. And then I can get full and empty. I can get 100%. Two very different minds. Pulling and pushing are very different. Pulling, and then here, this is like I really have to mean it. I have to really straighten that leg as much as I can. And then I can bend it in order to pick it up. So I bend this leg, pulls me into it. I straighten this one. Now, if I just bent this one without picking it up, it would just start me moving the other direction. So we bend the leg to either move ourselves into it or to pull it off the ground. So now I pull it to pull myself into this foot. I straighten this one, and now I can either bend it to pull myself across, or I can bend it to pluck it off the ground. So pull, push, pull, push. And just feel it. I have to make sure that this leg has already claimed more than 50% of the weight before I can really use this leg to drive myself and inject myself into the ground. If I start pushing with this leg too soon, I tend to push myself over a full leg. And I'm not down. It's not really a root, it's just a leg on the ground. I want to get into the ground. So I pull with this foot, and then I wait until I'm in this leg, and then I just straighten this one, and it takes me down. Bend the leg, and then straighten this one. And straighten, bend to pick the foot up. Now just coming to gravity, really, the sinking, the flow. It's a central equilibrium. When I'm standing still, I'm not stiff and frozen. everything is always mind. My mind is with the sinking, the flow down from my body, the process of gravity. And then the up will become manifest as well. Just relaxing across the sacrum. For that to happen, something in the mind has to let go. All of the work, it's all about letting go, release. Letting go of tension, letting go of images. Images are just tensions, really. They're just something that's become set. So I'm feeling the flow down through my body. And the flows are always continuous. They always extend beyond. They can extend beyond and then loop back, but there's a sense that they never really stop. So this flows down, and I can either feel it extending all the way down into the earth, or I can feel it as something that then gathers up the middle. But it's got to be continuous. It's constantly flowing. And my mind has to be with that. And now let's try just backwards and forwards. The same thing, bending the leg and then straightening the empty leg. Bending the empty leg, straightening the empty leg. Bending, straightening. Feel the straightening of the leg injecting you into the ground. It's not simply moving me over the foot. It's pushing me into the ground. And straighten the other one. Bend the other one. Straighten the other one. We're just looking at how the root. A root is a sense of part of you that's gone into the ground. And it requires not just a passive relaxation, but a real active injection. It's what we want to look at. So I bend this leg, it pulls me across, and I start settling onto the foot. And then at the last minute, this leg has to really push to drive me underneath the foot. Different mind again. I'm relaxing. It's a nice, relaxing mind. Then suddenly I push here and I've got to get really serious to get through the skin of the ground and underneath the foot. Pulling, settling, injecting. I don't want to start injecting too soon. It's right at the last second. Now I get underneath the foot. The root is spirited. Like a little seed, a little seed germinates. So it sends down a root. So it knows up and down because it senses gravity. So the root starts extruding downwards as the shoot starts reaching upwards. They're very similar, but think of the root. The root is extending and forming this amazing sort of network. It's going down and sort of gathering into itself. The shoot that goes up just goes up in order to reach the sun. So quite different energies. Something in me has to get into the ground, and then something deep inside me can start working. So push, gets underneath, pull. And so it requires that sort of determined, spirited, a little bit crazy mind, but it also, in particular, requires the real single-weightedness. So this leg is full, so full, it's almost like it's more than 100%. And then it just springs back then. Push, pull, settle, drive down. The other foot forwards. So bending the leg to pull myself forwards, and then really straightening the back leg to make sure that I'm in the ground. Pull, and then extend. So this is John through and through, just working with spirit, and it will just push you into regions you've never been before. It's the only way to progress, really, to get a sense that you're moving into the unknown all the time. It's what Castaneda says, the most healthy place to reside is on the boundary between the known and the unknown. This really keeps you young. You just have to be careful you don't injure yourself. And it's a riding horse again. Constantly spreading here. And that's the tap, like you've turned a tap on in your sacrum, and it's allowed the energy to release across either side of the sacrum into the hip bones and down the legs. And that's all an enlightened master is, really. An enlightened master is really someone whose mind is always with the flow of energy. Their mind never gets distracted and starts thinking to itself. So they're just there all the time. They're with this flow coming down. They're with the flow coming out of themselves. They're with the world flowing into them. And you can see it, you know, when if you see one on YouTube, they're just the way they're there. Their eyes are open. They're looking in complete astonishment and innocence. And especially when they move, it's like everything is in slow motion, very much like Tai Chi. That's why Tai Chi is just so good. And now let's just try the two circles a little bit. The feeling again, it's like I get into this foot and I need to inject into the ground. So this leg really needs to straighten, and so this whole side is sort of straightening, and then this leg starts pulling. So really, it's just what we've been doing with the pulling and then this really straightening the empty leg, but with just a bit more of a turn. To feel the energy. I pull into this leg straightens to inject me into the ground. And then it's like there's a gush comes up into the opposite hand. So I'm breaking the skin of the ground all the time. It's like I'm hitting an aquifer or like a well of oil, and it just gushes into the opposite hand. It requires me to get into this leg, and then something can come up and express it. Now let's just try a bit of this one. Yeah, so we repeat the exercise until there's something inside us that almost can't stop, that's just compelling this movement to continue and exaggerate itself. That's the spirit. So it may start off as an image, as something that the mind imposes upon the body, but quite quickly it should break out of that. If it doesn't, you'll just feel like you haven't done yourself justice. And now just stepping. So we want to feel the pulling the foot up. So bending the leg to pull the foot up rather than pull myself into the leg. And then I extend the leg to step, and then I bend the leg to pull myself into it. I extend the leg to push myself into it, and then I bend the leg to bring the foot up. So we're alternating. Extend the leg to step, bend the leg to pull myself into it, straighten the leg to push in, then bend the leg. Just feeling it. This leg bends, it starts pulling me into the leg. This leg really straightens to inject this into the ground, and then this can bend and come off the ground. And then it extends to step out, bend the leg to pull myself into it, really straighten this one. What we're aiming for is just that feeling of the straightening leg injecting me into the ground. I have a presence of mind, of intention underneath the foot in the ground. Pull, now straighten here. This one has to really straighten, and then this can come up. This is so difficult. Yeah, because we can just move across and then just pick this foot up. But then I very much get a sense that I'm sort of balancing on this tottering leg. I'm sort of up here somewhere. Whereas if I really straighten this leg to push myself down, then I'm under the ground. So I'm with my root rather than just with my tottering balance. So I pull, but then I have to straighten before I can pick the foot up. Otherwise, my balance is compromised. So I'll bend, and I'll really straighten this leg and bend it to pick the foot off the ground, straighten it to extend the leg, bend the leg to pull myself into it, straighten this leg to push myself into my root, and then pick this foot up by bending the leg. There's something it says in the Tai Chi classics. It says, really pay attention at the end of something. So here it's not enough just to sink into this leg and pull this leg up. I sink into the leg, but then I use this leg. So I'm really focusing, almost like I'm hammering the nail of my leg into the ground. Pull, drive down, and then pick the foot up. So this is difficult because there's nothing really in our lives that's like the equivalent. Most things that we do, we can find something in our normal lives that's similar. This is quite unique. You know, like killing the prisoner. You know, so imagine you've had a fight and you've caught the person. So they're now your prisoner. But at the end, you just know you've just got to kill them because otherwise they'll hold you back. So here, everything focuses into this grim reality, which is your root. Pull, and then here, this just focuses down into the foot, and then this can come up. And the same thing, but just reaching forwards. Just you can step wherever you like, really injecting here, again, injecting down. And then reaching. Pull. This, in a sense, is the problem with the form. Because in the form, none of the postures are really finished. You sort of bleed into the next posture before the posture is completely finished. You know, in the old days, the form wasn't continuous. You just practice one posture over and over. So there'd be a real sense of completion at the end of the posture. Pull, and now this drives me down into this point beneath my foot. Pull, straight. This is unbelievably difficult. Not necessarily difficult physically, but just the mind, just keeping the mind with it. The mind doesn't like becoming intense and ruthless. So, normally you think of intensity as being like an activity. So it's getting more active, which will give it a sense of wanting to expand. Whereas ruthlessness is like an activity that's focusing in, really coming into some really painfully intense point, and that's this here. So I pull, I sink into the leg, and now this intensifies everything. So there's no longer any space, any extension. Everything's compressed into a point of pure energy, which is your root. Pull, settle on the leg, and then this focuses everything in. Pull, settle, focus. So let's just finish. Again, feeling this, sinking. I'm just draining into the ground. Kenosis, emptying, self-emptying. The self, the construct, the individual, it's just all breaking up and crumbling and melting away and just getting lost in this endless flow. And then if you can just let that possess you, consume you, then what is it that comes out of that and starts to come alive? That's the spirit. Okay, so let's bring the feet up. And the legs wanting to bend. In one sense, the legs are bent, wanting to straighten, and in another sense, they're straight, wanting to bend.